Some people believe karma is just a myth, a comforting idea we tell ourselves so we don't have to face consequences. But every choice leaves a trace. Every action creates a reaction. These are real stories about arrogance, betrayal, and greed, and what happens when karma finally collects its debt. This is Karma Chronicles.
They tried to humiliate me in public, but the full video went viral instead. The internet has a special kind of cruelty. Not the obvious cruelty, the insults, the threats, the comments from strangers. The deeper cruelty is how quickly it turns you into a character, a headline, a punchline, and how little it cares whether the story is true. My moment started in a place most people wouldn't expect, a grocery store parking lot. It was one of those days where everything already felt heavy. I was tired, distracted, and carrying the kind of stress that makes you move slightly slower than normal. I parked. I grabbed a basket. I walked in, and near the entrance there was a guy filming. Not obviously, not with a big camera, just a phone held at chest height, like he was texting. I didn't think about it. People film everything now. Inside, the store was crowded. The aisles were tight. People were impatient. I turned into an aisle and nearly collided with a woman pushing a cart too fast. She stopped abruptly and muttered something under her breath. Then it happened again. Another person cut in front of me, clipped my basket, didn't apologize. I stayed calm. I told myself to let it go, but my patience was already thin. Then I reached the checkout area and saw an employee scanning items for someone who was arguing loudly about a discount that clearly didn't apply. The employee looked exhausted. The line behind them was growing. People were sighing, whispering. And suddenly I felt the pressure in the room, like everyone was waiting for someone to snap so they could either judge it or enjoy it. I remember thinking, don't be that guy, just leave. But right as I stepped forward, a man behind me started pushing. Literally pushing the cart forward into my legs. Not once, repeatedly, like he was trying to shove the line forward with irritation. I turned slightly and said, calmly, "Hey, can you give me a little space?" He didn't answer. He rolled his eyes and pushed again. Something in me broke, not violently, but audibly. I raised my voice. "Stop pushing your cart into me." That was it. No slurs, no threats, no profanity. Just a tired man asking someone to stop being disrespectful. But the guy with the phone? He captured the moment I raised my voice. Not what led to it. Not the cart hitting me. Not the warnings. Just the single clip where I look angry. That night, someone sent me a link. "Is this you?" My stomach dropped before I even opened it. The video was posted on a local social media page. The caption was written to make me look like a monster. Entitled Guy Freaks Out in Store. And the clip was edited. It started right as I raised my voice. It ended right after the other guy smirked. It looked like I had snapped for no reason. And the comments? Brutal. People called me unstable, dangerous, a bully, a Karen, even though I'm a man. Some were laughing, others were furious. A few threatened to find me. I didn't sleep, not because I was ashamed of what happened, but because I understood what this could become. Employers see this stuff. Neighbors see it. Family sees it. And once you're labeled online, it sticks, because people prefer a simple story over a true one. The next morning, I did the one thing most people don't do. I investigated. I went back to the store and spoke to the manager. Calmly, politely. I explained that a misleading clip was circulating and asked whether the store had security footage. The manager didn't promise anything, but he listened. He said, "We'll see what we can do." Then I did something else. I posted a simple message in the comment section. No arguing, no insults, just, "If anyone has the full video, please share it. This clip is missing what happened before. Most people mocked me, but a few got curious. One person replied, "Yeah, I was there. That clip is missing a lot." That gave me hope. By the afternoon, the store manager called me. He couldn't give me a copy of the security footage directly, policy reasons. But he said something that mattered. "You're not the aggressor. We saw what happened." He also mentioned that the guy with the cart had been a repeat problem. That told me the truth existed. I just needed it to surface. 2 days later, it did. Someone who had been standing near the checkout line uploaded another angle, a longer recording. It showed the cart hitting me multiple times. It showed me asking politely. It showed the guy ignoring me. It showed him smirking when I finally raised my voice. And suddenly the story changed. Not slowly, overnight. Because the internet loves one thing more than outrage. It loves being proven wrong, especially when it can redirect its anger. People began reposting the longer clip with a new caption. Full context changes everything. Comments shifted from attacking me to attacking the person who filmed and cropped the original clip. Then something even bigger happened. A popular local page picked it up and posted both versions side by side. Here's why context matters. That post went viral, and the guy who originally uploaded the cropped clip, he deleted it. But it was too late. Screenshots existed. Reposts existed. People recognized him in the longer footage because he appeared briefly, phone in hand, recording. Within a week, the internet had turned him into the villain. I didn't celebrate that part. I don't enjoy mob justice. But I did feel a quiet satisfaction in one thing. The attempt to humiliate me failed. Because truth, once it's visible, has a weight that editing can't fully remove. The final twist? A few days later, I got a message from someone who worked with the guy who posted the cropped clip. They said he had been disciplined at work for harassment and for provoking public drama. Again, nothing I requested, just consequences finding him. And that's the real lesson I took from it. Karma doesn't always punish the first person who's wrong. Sometimes it waits until the evidence arrives. And when it does, the same spotlight that was used to shame you can turn into a mirror. Story 2. My family treated me like an ATM until I finally closed it. I used to be proud of being the reliable one. In my family, that title meant you were the fixer, the calm one, the person everyone called when life got messy. At first, it felt like love, like trust, like I mattered. But there's a point where being needed stops feeling like belonging and starts feeling like being used. It didn't happen overnight. It happened the way these things always happen. Slowly, quietly, one small favor at a time. It started with money that was supposed to be temporary. Can you cover this bill? Just until next week? I'm short this month. Can you help me out? I'll pay you back. And because I could help, I did. Not because I was naive, but because I believed family works like a team. You help when someone falls behind, then they stand back up, and later you help someone else. That's how I thought it was supposed to work. Except, it never went back to normal. The requests became more frequent, more casual, less grateful, and I noticed something that made my stomach sink. They weren't asking because it was an emergency anymore. They were asking because it had become routine. And routine is dangerous because routine creates entitlement. One time, I visited a relative and saw a brand new TV in their living room. The kind you don't buy when you're struggling. I didn't say anything. I told myself not to judge. People deserve joy. But a week later, the same person asked me for a small loan because rent was due. I looked at the message for a long time before answering, not because I didn't have the money, because I had the growing sense that I was financing decisions I wasn't allowed to question. When I did help, I didn't just lose money, I lost peace. Because once you give, you start waiting for repayment. And when repayment doesn't come, you start negotiating with yourself. Maybe they forgot. Maybe they're embarrassed. I don't want to ruin the relationship. So you swallow it. Then the next request arrives, and you say yes again because saying no feels like you're breaking the family. That's how the trap works. The moment I really understood it was at a family gathering. Someone joked about me in front of everyone. Not a cruel joke, but a joke with sharp teeth. They said, "If we ever need help, we know who to call." Everyone laughed. I smiled too, because that's what you do when you don't want to look sensitive. But inside, something went cold. Because I realized they weren't laughing with me. They were laughing at the assumption that I would always say yes. And the worst part? They weren't wrong. After that, the demands increased. A car repair, a must-pay phone bill, a surprise fee. I began cutting corners in my own life. I delayed my plans, skipped trips I wanted to take, put off purchases that would have made my life easier. And I told myself it was fine. Until one day, I looked at my bank account and felt something I hadn't felt before. Resentment. Not explosive, not loud, just a quiet, heavy resentment that made me realize I was becoming someone I didn't like. Because resentment grows into bitterness, and bitterness poisons everything, even the relationships you're trying to preserve. Then came the breaking point. A close family member asked me for money again. The message was short and confident. No greeting, no explanation, just an amount and a deadline. I replied with a question. "What is it for?" The response came fast, and it wasn't an answer. It was irritation. "Why are you asking so many questions? I thought you cared." That line hit me like a slap. Because it wasn't about need, it was about control. They weren't asking for help anymore. They were demanding proof that I was still available, that I still belonged to my role. So I did something I had never done. I said no. Not angrily, not with a lecture, just, "I can't." Silence. Then a wave of messages came in, one after another. Guilt, anger, accusations disguised as disappointment. "You've changed. You think you're better than us now. I would never do this to you." And there it was, the emotional manipulation that only appears when your no threatens someone's comfort. I didn't defend myself. That was the hardest part, because when people accuse you unfairly, your instincts want to explain, to clarify. But I realized something. If someone only understands you when you're saying yes, they don't actually want to understand you. They want access. So I stayed calm. I repeated it once. "I'm not able to help." Then I stopped replying. That week felt strange. I kept expecting a call, a crisis, something that would justify their anger. But nothing happened. They figured it out. A different relative helped. They delayed a payment. They solved it. And the world didn't collapse. What collapsed was an illusion. The illusion that I was the only thing holding them together. Over the next month, the requests slowed. Not because they suddenly respected me, because they realized the machine was no longer dispensing cash. Some of them became distant. Some of them became cold. And one or two unexpectedly became normal again, like our relationship had been reset to something healthier. That's when I understood the real cost of always being the helper. It's not the money. It's the way your identity gets rewritten. You stop being a person and become a resource. And once that happens, the only way to get yourself back is to set a boundary so clear it makes people uncomfortable. Karma in this story wasn't me punishing anyone. It was me choosing myself for the first time. And the consequence was simple. The people who loved me for me stayed. The people who loved what I provided disappeared. My coworker took credit for my work until one meeting changed everything. Ready to record script, I used to believe that if you did good work, people would notice. Not instantly, not always loudly, but eventually. That was the lie I told myself for a long time, because it made the workplace feel fair. Then I met someone who didn't compete by working harder. He competed by rearranging credit like it was furniture. I'll call him Mark. Mark joined our team with a smile that never quite reached his eyes. He was friendly in a practiced way, laughing at the right moments, agreeing with the right people, and always positioning himself near whoever had influence. He wasn't incompetent. That's what made him dangerous. He understood the work well enough to talk about it, but not well enough to build it from scratch. So he did what people like him do. He attached himself to other people's output. At first, it was subtle. He'd ask questions during a project, not to learn, but to harvest language. He'd say things like, "I love your approach. Can you send me that draft so I can align my part with it?" He'd offer to present on behalf of the team because he was comfortable speaking. And if you didn't watch closely, it looked helpful. I didn't watch closely. Not in the beginning. I was busy. I was focused. I cared about results more than politics. I didn't want to be the paranoid guy who sees manipulation everywhere. Then we got a client project that mattered. The kind of project that could lead to bigger contracts and internal promotion. The problem was complicated. The client had messy data, unclear expectations, and a system that behaved differently depending on how you touched it. Most people in our team avoided it. Not out of laziness, out of self-preservation. If you owned that project and it went wrong, you'd be the name blamed in the recap meeting. I took it anyway. I told myself, if I can solve this cleanly, it'll speak for itself. For 2 weeks, I lived in that project. I stayed late. I tested edge cases. I wrote documentation that nobody asked for because I knew if the solution worked, someone would immediately ask, "How did you do it?" I built the structure. I wrote the logic. I mapped the risks. I created a presentation that explained it in plain language. And I kept everything organized. Not because I expected a fight, but because that's how my brain works when I'm serious. Mark watched from the sidelines, close enough to appear involved, far enough to avoid accountability. Near the end, he started showing up in my messages more often. "How's it going? Need anything? Send me the latest, I want to understand it." I sent him a version of the slide deck, thinking he wanted to be prepared. 2 days later, we had the client call. Mark volunteered to run it. "I can walk them through it," he said, like he was doing me a favor. "You've been deep in the weeds. Let me handle the communication." I hesitated, not because I was controlling, but because something about the way he said it didn't feel right. Still, I didn't want to be difficult. I told myself the client only cares that it works. The call started. Mark spoke smoothly. Then he opened my deck. And as he went through it, he did something so clean and so shameless, I almost admired the audacity. He used my work like it belonged to him. Not by saying, "Here's what we built." He said, "Here's what I've developed." Not once did he mention my name. Not once did he say, "we," in a way that included me. It was, "I found," "I decided," "I recommend." I sat there on mute with my hands on the desk, listening to my own solution being narrated like a personal victory speech. The client was impressed. They asked questions. Mark answered with the confidence of someone reading lines from a script, because he was. He was reading what I had written. When the call ended, leadership praised him. "Great work, Mark." And Mark did the thing that makes your skin crawl once you recognize it. He smiled modestly, like he was humble about a success he didn't earn. That night I couldn't sleep. Not because I was devastated, but because a switch flipped in my head. I realized something. If I let this happen once, it would happen again, because he had learned I'd tolerate it. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront him emotionally. People like Mark don't lose to emotion. They feed on it. They twist it into, "You're insecure," or "You're overreacting." I was going to beat him with what he couldn't manipulate. Receipts, not petty screenshots, not gossip. Proof that could survive in a room full of decision-makers. From that moment on, I documented everything. Every file version, every comment in the drafts, every meeting note, every email chain where I introduced the idea, every timestamp. I didn't do it loudly. I didn't threaten him. I just quietly kept a history, and I waited. Because karma, in real life, isn't instant. It's procedural. A few weeks later, another big project came up. Mark tried the same approach, hovering, collecting, presenting. Only this time, I didn't give him the full deck early. I shared partial drafts. I kept my notes in places only I could access. I used collaboration tools that tracked authorship automatically. He didn't notice. He thought the game was still easy. Then, 3 months after the first incident, our company scheduled an internal review. A leadership meeting where they wanted to understand why certain projects were succeeding and others weren't. It was one of those meetings where reputations quietly get built. Mark was excited. You could see it in the way he spoke that morning, like someone who already imagined the applause. The meeting started. Leadership asked for a breakdown of the successful client solution, the one I had built. Mark leaned forward, ready. A senior manager asked him a simple question. "Walk us through how you developed the framework. What was your process from problem to solution?" And for the first time, Mark didn't have a rehearsed slide to read. Because that question wasn't about the outcome. It was about the making. He started talking in circles. He used vague words. Alignment, strategic approach, iterative thinking. The manager stopped him. "No, I mean specifics. What did you try first? What failed? What did you learn?" Mark hesitated. That pause told everyone what they needed to know. I stayed quiet for a moment. I let the silence do its work. Then I spoke calmly. "I can answer that." I shared my screen, not dramatically, not like a gotcha moment, just professionally. I opened the project folder, version history showing my name on every major build, comments where I outlined the logic weeks before the client call, an email chain where I sent the approach to the team, drafts with internal notes like, "Client risk, if X happens, we do Y." The room went quiet in a different way, not confusion, recognition. Mark stared at the screen like his brain was trying to deny what his eyes were seeing. Leadership didn't yell. They didn't need to. They asked Mark a few questions after that, but the tone had shifted. Not angry, disappointed. And disappointment is worse because it means you're no longer trusted. After the meeting, nobody congratulated him. He didn't come to my desk to confront me. He avoided me entirely. Within a week, he was quietly removed from client-facing responsibilities. Within a month, he was transferred to internal tasks where visibility was low. And shortly after that, he resigned. No big farewell, no announcement, just gone. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post about it. I didn't even feel victorious. What I felt was calm. Because I learned something important. Some people don't learn from confrontation, they learn from consequences. And sometimes, the cleanest revenge is simply letting the truth have room to speak.
Karma doesn't always arrive immediately. Sometimes it waits, it watches, and when the moment is right, it strikes with precision. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to Karma Chronicles. New stories every week, because sooner or later, karma always finds its way back.